Zone Media.
It's the podcast that it is on Election Day. But you won't hear this on Election Day. You know how the election has gone. You listening have information.
You'll hear this in December.
Yeah, probably in December.
Which hopefully means the election is over by then. But who knows?
God willing.
Yeah, God willing. The election is almost certainly over, which means, find a way to communicate to the past and let us know so that we can gamble on it. That's what I'd like you to do. Anyway, speaking of gambling, who knows all of the words to the classic song The Gambler? Our guest today, Molly Conger. Molly, do you know when to hold 'em?
Oh, I know when to fold 'em. That's as much of that song as I know.
And when to run.
Well done.
Oh my God.
I only know that from InfoWars.
I do love watching Alex Jones sing that, and the Highwaymen, Poncho and Lefty.
He's just grooving. Things are going well for Alex when he's doing that.
That's the most jealous I ever am of him, because we're not allowed to we have no licensing agreement with any company that owns songs.
Does he?
Yeah, he must. Otherwise, he wouldn't be allowed to air them like that. I think because there are ways that you as a broadcaster can just make a deal for access to, they have X number of songs and we can use them for whatever. I think that exists. I think that's got to be what he does.
You were somewhat correct, but that doesn't mean that Alex Jones has a deal with them. He could totally be grifting because that's what you do.
I think he'd have been sued before then about this.
Maybe.
You're so chipper today, Robert.
Yep. I'm chipper. I'm doing good.
How many hours of sleep did you get, bud?
I had 6 last night.
Right.
I tried to get to bed early, but I really couldn't get to sleep before 3:30 in the morning. I don't know. Well, it's Behind the Bastards, and we're all trying not to obsess over the election. And I thought, we all might be hoping that history goes a different way, depending on what happens today. So why not read a work of alternate history? We love doing book episodes over here because it's lets me rest a little bit. The trouble is finding a book. You can't just use any book, and it's sometimes hard to figure it out. And thank God, I got very lucky. Margaret Killjoy was over at my house recently. Not bragging, although I am kind of bragging.
You know some celebrities.
I know some celebrities. I know a famous Killjoy, who's also a famous Margaret. And she brought me a book that a fan had given her at an event, because our fans are unhinged and have just decided sometimes we should hand one member of the team an absolutely terrible piece of literature to give to another member of the team. And the book that I have received is 1945 by Newt Gingrich. Molly?
Wow. What if things had been different?
What if things had been different? Do you know much about old Newt in this book?
So I did not realize, and this is on me entirely.
Yeah.
I know a little bit about, old moon-based Newt, but I did not realize he had written 30 works of fiction.
He has written a lot of fiction.
Where does he find the time?
He doesn't spend a lot of his political career does not take up a lot of time.
Well, because usually when you see this politician has written a book, a memoir, or whatever, and it's okay, well, a campaign staffer wrote that. That's for PR. No, this is his passion.
Yeah.
He's writing these.
This is what he really wanted to do. And my God, I wish we had some sort of program in place where when we find some guy who has an artistic dream, but also weird right-wing politics, we just kind of swallow our pride and fund, have a government agency buy up copies of their books so they feel like a success. Anything to keep them from running for office.
Let Hitler paint.
What if let Hitler paint? Let Ben Shapiro make his dog shit TV show about fucking law students, and just
you're positing sort of a Truman Show type experience where we encapsulate them safely.
We have to Truman Show these people, right? Run a fake, that White House Correspondents' Dinner that supposedly got Trump committed him to run for office. Hold a fake one of those where everybody just talks about how nice he is and how much they admire him, Like,
put him in a bubble.
Yeah, we really have to put these people in bubbles. It's the kindest thing for all of us. Oh, man. So, yeah, we're going to be reading 1945. As you might guess, it is a World War II alternate history.
No.
Of course, Sophie. What else could it be? What else could it be? And it's a particularly...
You did tell me that, but I did not process it. I was like, that's not what it is.
Oh, yeah, of course. And it's a wild one. I'm going to tell you that right now. So, our author for today, I'm going to go through a little bit of a scripted portion here, is Newton Leroy Gingrich. Leroy, yes.
Gingrich.
Yeah, you can't not do the Leroy Jenkins thing, which is just going to be incomprehensible for anyone in our audience that's like younger than their mid-30s. You don't know who Leroy Jenkins was. You don't remember the old times. Pieces of shit. Sorry. Anyway. There's a post in the subreddit now saying that I'm an old man and all my references are old man references. And the thing that makes me angriest is they're like, he never references The Simpsons from any episode later than the year 2000. And I'm sorry, I never reference a Simpsons episode from later than 1998 because that's when they stopped being good.
You're not an old man.
Thank you, Sophie. But you've called me an old man on the show.
Yeah, that's because I'm allowed to. It's okay when I do it. They're not allowed to do that. You are youth to them. To me, you are ancient.
I'm not. They haven't even seen Alien 4. These scrubs, these babies. None of them know what Sequest DSV was. Molly, did you watch Sequest?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
Ancient.
Go get a learner's permit. Anyway.
I think we're the same age.
We might be. Newton Leroy Gingrich.
But mentally.
This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.
14 years in prison for killing a young woman. A 15-year sentence for a crash that caused 3 deaths. 12 and a half years for killing a child and critically injuring her mother. All true stories. All caused by marijuana-impaired drivers. No matter what you tell yourself, if you feel different, you drive different. So, if you're high, just don't drive. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Then she says, have you seen a photo of my son? And I'm like, who is this person?
Welcome to the Boys and Girls Podcast. Arranged marriage is basically a reality show, and you're auditioning for your soulmate. And who's judging? Only your entire family. I sacrificed myself to this ancient tradition, hoping to find love the right way. And instead, I found chaos, comedy, and a lot of cringe. Listen to Boys and Girls on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey everyone, it's Emily Simpson and Shane Simpson from the Legally Brunette podcast.
Each week, we're bringing you true crime through a legal lens.
Whether you want all the facts on the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, or you still need to wrap your head around the Diddy verdict, we're breaking it all down step by step.
And we're not just lawyers, we're also husband and wife. It makes for some pretty entertaining episodes.
Listen to Legally Brunette on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
When segregation was a law, one mysterious black club owner, Charlie Fitzgerald, had his own rules.
Segregation in the day, integration at night.
It was like stepping on another world.
Was he a businessman, a criminal, a hero?
Charlie was an example of power. They had to crush him.
Charlie's Place, from Atlas Obscura and Visit Myrtle Beach. Listen to Charlie's Place on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm Anna Navarro, and on my new podcast, Bleep with Anna Navarro, I'm talking to the people closest to the biggest issues happening in your community and around the world. Because I know deep down inside right now, we are all cursing and asking what the bleep is going on. Every week, I'm breaking down the biggest issues happening in our communities and around the world. I'm talking to people like Julie K. Brown, who broke the explosive story on Jeffrey Epstein in 2018.
The Justice Department, through, we counted 4 presidential administrations, failed these victims.
outcomes. Listen to Bleep with Anna Navarro on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Newton Leroy Gingrich was born 2 years before the title of his novel on June 17th, 1943. Newt's father was a career soldier, but Newt takes a different path. He's actually an art student. He gets like an MA in the mid-60s. And like any guy who could during the Vietnam War, he gets a deferment from being drafted by arguing that he was a student and a young father. Remember that because there's going to be a funny coda to that a little bit later in this story.
Well, we all know Newt's a family man.
We all know Newt's a family man. We all know Newt's a big not fighting in wars, but not a big not having wars guy. Newton is elected to Congress in 1979. In an address to college Republicans before his election, he said, "I think one of the great problems we have in the Republican Party is that we don't encourage you to be nasty. We encourage you to be neat, obedient, and loyal and faithful, and all those Boy Scout words. Richard Nixon, Gerald Ford, they've done a terrible job, a pathetic job. In my lifetime, I was born in 1943, we have not had a competent national Republican leader. Not ever." And it's very clear from that context that a competent leader is a mean one, right? Like, that's what he's missing. Like, Richard Nixon's just too nice.
What politics really needs is more vitriol.
Yeah, it needs more real assholes. I think that's interesting because it makes a case that I think is an important thing to understand if you're trying to like puzzle out why we are where we are now in American politics. And the basics of that case is, well, because Republicans lost their minds when Nixon had to step down. And everything they've done since then has been dedicated to making sure that no other Republican would ever have to leave office, no matter what crimes they committed, right? And that's
no
clearly
modern precedent.
Yeah, no modern precedent for that. No. So in 1985, as a congressman, Newton told an interviewer, I think from the Washington Post, who asked about his deferment during Vietnam, quote, "Given everything I believe, a large part of me thinks I should have gone over." Oh, if only, Newt. I do wish you had gone to fight in Vietnam. Now, that same year, when President Reagan held a summit with Soviet Premier Gorbachev, Newton called it, quote, "the most dangerous summit for the West since Adolf Hitler met with Chamberlain in 1938 at Munich." And I love the idea that like Gorbachev is a Hitler figure. This guy who wouldn't even shoot back during like the protests that overthrew his government is like a Hitler, you know? The future Pizza Hut spokesman Gorbachev as a Hitler kind of figure.
R.I.P. Hitler, you would have loved Pizza Hut.
That does tell you where our boy Newt is on like the political alignment chart, right? He sees Ronald Reagan as a fucking Neville Chamberlain type. Now, that same year, Gingrich made the news for comparing a House race that was in question in Indiana to the Holocaust. Here's a quote about it. I'm going to read you the quote, Molly. Here's a quote about it as relayed by an article in Mother Jones. And it starts with Newt here. "We've talked a lot in recent weeks about the Holocaust, about the incredible period in which Nazi Germany killed millions of people, and in particular came close to wiping out European Jewry. If someone said to me 2 days ago, talking frankly about the McIntyre affair, in which Democrats refused to seat the winner of a House race until they'd conducted a recount, and the efforts by the Democratic leadership to not allow the people of Indiana to have their representative, but instead to impose upon them someone else, something in which he quotes German poet Martin Niemöller, I have never quite until tonight been able to link it together. Niemöller, the great German theologian, said at one point, when the Nazis came for the Jews, I did nothing. And when the Nazis came for me, there was no one left." Right? I think it's Niemöller. But this so basically the Democrats are like, well, until we finish a recount, we're not going to sit this guy because there's questions about the election. And fucking Newt is like, this is the same as the Holocaust.
So at what point did millions of people die? Did they kill all the voters?
Did they murder everybody? It just kind of seems like they were doing a thing that legally is a part of the election, like having a recount, waiting to seat the elected leader until you do the recount. Is that the same as killing millions of people in factories of death?
There needs to be a swear jar for people who abuse the Niemöller poem.
Yeah.
You need to put $1 in the jar because that was not appropriate.
I think anytime you reference it, you have to lose, like, it should be like a Yakuza thing where you have to give up one of the joints of a finger, right? And maybe that'll cause people to be like a lot more careful about when they deploy that bad boy.
I heard it in closing arguments at a trial last month, a trial for a man who is a white nationalist.
Amazing.
And his lawyer's argument was, this is free speech. You're trying him for his free speech. And in his closing arguments, he refers to the Niemöller poem, except, the poem starts, first they came for the communists, and I said nothing because I was not a communist. And then they came for the Jews, and I said nothing because I was not a Jew.
Uh-huh.
But he says he's going to quote the poem, but he says, first they came for one group.
Yeah.
And then they came for another group. And it's like, what were the groups? What were
Anyone
the groups,
who
Terry?
goes for any group is a Nazi.
What were the groups, Terry?
Yeah. First, they came for the Nazis, and I did not speak out because I was not a Nazi. Man, it's very funny. Okay. So let's get back into it. Newt served as the Republican Speaker of the House from 1995 to 99. Gingrich was the architect of the Republican victory in the 1994 congressional election, which legitimately set the stage for nearly everything the right has been able to accomplish since. Without the contract with America and his retaking of the House, it's possible that we see no George W. Bush presidency, no right-wing Supreme Court today, and at least a lot less of a right-wing drift on behalf of the Democrats who stumbled to fight him, right? This is a major move in U.S. politics. I don't think a lot of folks who, whose awareness of politics has sort of started since the Trump years know much about this, but you had, Slick Willie stop George H.W. Bush from getting a second term. It drove these people crazy. You have briefly the Democrats in control of government. And then in 94, Newt leads, I think they pick up 54 House seats. It's this massive sweeping victory that comes with this thing called the contract with America, which is basically Newt introducing what becomes kind of the neocon platform, right? And this is like a really, it's one of the most important moments in modern electoral history, right? Newt is one of the first conservatives to see a real promise in creating a right-wing system of education to push conservative values. In 1993, he crafted a college course taught at Reinhardt College called Renewing American Civilization. We're looking at this as like sort of a proto, what's that fucking guy? Who does the little kids TV bullshit.
Like the Prager University?
Prager University,
yeah,
right? This
okay.
is a precursor to Prager University, right?
He was on the Hillsdale track, yeah.
Yeah, and it's eventually televised in a cable channel called Mind Extension University.
I don't like that.
You got to extend your mind. Now, obviously, he was a ferocious opponent of gay rights and the degradation of American values in the modern era. He talked a lot about how, people today, especially because of, Democrats gaining such cultural dominance, are just, awful compared to, the glorious greatest generation who really understood morality. He also cheated on his second wife with a staffer who became his third wife while he was advocating for the impeachment of Bill Clinton over infidelity. Now, this should not have been surprising to anyone who knew that in 1989, in an interview with the Washington Post, he explained that he fought with his second wife not because it mattered to him what they were fighting about, but because he had a habit of dominance that had been stoked by his time in politics. He estimated to the Post that his marriage had a 53 to 47% chance of making it. Oh, man. Family values.
53-47. That's I wouldn't bet on those odds.
Fascinating odds to give your own marriage. Now, Newt has a long and fascinating history, and I do recommend reading that. There's a 2012 Mother Jones article with some of his best quotes that we'll link in the show notes. If you want a better understanding of the man, though, that's a good way of getting it. But for our purposes today, we're going to be focusing on the novel 1945, which he co-authored. It is set in an alternate world where the U.S. defeated Japan, but Hitler never declared war on the U.S., and so we never got involved in a war with Germany. The Nazis won their war with the Soviets. They took most of their European holdings and forced them to accept a peace. They then boxed the Brits into a corner. A few years later, they carried out a surprise attack on the United States in order to kill our nuclear scientists and stop the completion of what in our universe we know as the Manhattan Project. Now, because of where this takes place, I'll spoil it for you, Molly. This book centers around the Waffen SS invading East Tennessee. That's what this book is about.
How'd they get all the way to Tennessee?
They've got their wonder weapons. They've got these. Newt is, again, he's like a history channel, history buff, right? So a huge part of this book is like the Nazis building all of these wonder weapons that were mostly theoretical during the actual war, including this like massive, bombing type plane that they had kind of been talking about making that probably never would have worked out. Like, it's all sorts of like nonsense sci-fi weapons, right?
And what did they want with Tennessee specifically?
It's where the nuclear program was headed.
That's not true.
Well, actually, I think it was initially before they moved to Los Alamos. I think it was somewhere in like the southeast before they moved to Los Alamos that they had like the early stages of the nuclear program. And I think he's just kind of positing a much more primitive nuclear program.
Okay.
But I'm going to pull up the book, Molly, because at this point, you should see this bad boy. Look at this. Look at this.
Whoa. Look at that cover art.
There we go. There we go.
Beautiful cover art.
Look at the size of his name there.
It looks like the book is called Newt Gingrich.
Newt Gingrich, 1945. Yeah, like it's a book about a 2-year-old Newt Gingrich.
And it kind of has like a sci-fi feel to it. If the listener, if you're not watching this on YouTube, I don't ever go to youtube.com. I'm not watching this on YouTube.
No, you should.
The cover of the book is on the book's Wikipedia page, and it has kind of a sci-fi vibe to it.
Yeah. Now, I want you to look at the back here. First off, Newt's smaller than I expected when you see him in a photo like this. This is a picture of him with his co-author, William R. Forstchen, and with Jim Bain, who is the owner of Bain Publishing. And we're going to be talking a lot about Bain Publishing.
Is that related to Bain Capital or Bain the Batman villain?
No, not at all. Spelled differently.
Okay.
Has not broken Batman's back. I do really like the Hitler on the back here. You can see him here. He just looks so happy.
Okay, can you
hold it up to me.
Yeah,
wrong camera.
Wrong
camera.
1 sec.
Other camera.
It's hard to figure out here.
That way.
Yeah, there we go.
Wow.
There we go. That's a good Hitler. Look at him.
It's a choice.
Newt Gingrich is 6 feet tall. How big are those other men?
Oh, wow. Because, I thought he was actually tall. So these guys, I think it's William Forstchen is just kind of a fucking mountain of a man. Yeah, he's got to be like 6'3", 6'4". It's a big guy. Jim Bain, not a big guy. Also has and I say this with all love to pornographers. He has the smile of a pornographer, right? Like, look at that. That's a man who's looking at you naked. Like, there's no other way to describe the look on Jim Bain's face. Speaking of people who look at you naked, our sponsors don't. They would never do that. They're gentlemen, or gentle thems, because I think they probably don't identify as a binary gender, given that they are
is non-binary.
Raytheon is definitely non-binary. Yes. Speaking of non-binary, here's more ads.
Almost 30 years together, 4 kids, and some of reality TV's most unforgettable moments, we know a thing or two about living life out loud. We're taking you behind the scenes in our new podcast, Between Us, with me, Heather Dubrow.
And me, Terry Dubrow. Between Us isn't about perfect lighting or curated Instagram grids.
It's the unfiltered, behind-closed-doors conversations you wish you could eavesdrop on. Equal parts smart, funny, and a little bit scandalous.
Every week, Heather will bring you an unapologetic take on the headlines, the trends, and the cultural moments everyone's texting about.
And Terry will deliver insider beauty, health, and wellness insights you won't find on TikTok.
Together, we'll tell the stories, spill the secrets, and share the hacks that keep life, marriage, and everything in between feeling fresh and fun.
We may live in a gated community, but there's zero gatekeeping here.
And plenty of, did they just say that moments?
Listen to Between Us on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Segregation in the day, integration at night.
When segregation was the law, one mysterious Black club owner had his own rules.
We didn't worry about what went on outside. It was like stepping in another world.
Inside Charlie's Place, Black and white people danced together. but not everyone was happy about it.
You saw the KKK?
Yeah, they was dressed up in their uniform.
The KKK set out to raid Charlie, take him away from here.
Charlie was an example of power. They had to crush him.
From Atlas Obscura, Rococo Punch, and Visit Myrtle Beach comes Charlie's Place, a story that was nearly lost to time. Until now. Listen to Charlie's Place on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
You know Roald Dahl, the writer who thought up Willy Wonka, Matilda, and the BFG. But did you know he was also a spy?
Was this before he wrote his stories? It must have been.
Our new podcast series, The Secret World of Roald Dahl, is a wild journey through the hidden chapters of his extraordinary, controversial life.
His job was literally to seduce the wives of powerful Americans.
What?
And he was really good at it.
You probably won't believe it either.
Okay, I don't think that's true.
I'm telling you, the guy was a spy.
Did you know Dahl got cozy with the Roosevelts, played poker with Harry Truman, and had a long affair with a congresswoman? And then he took his talents to Hollywood, where he worked alongside Walt Disney and Alfred Hitchcock before writing a hit James Bond film. How did this secret agent wind up as the most successful children's author ever? And what darkness from his covert past seeped into the stories we read as kids? The true story is stranger than anything he ever wrote. Listen to The Secret World of Roald Dahl on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is Ryder Strong with a podcast called The Red Weather.
In 1995, my neighbor, Anna Trainer, disappeared from the commune.
It was nature and trees and praying and drugs.
So no, I am not your guru.
And back then, I lied to everybody.
They have had this case for 30 years.
I'm going back to my hometown to uncover the truth.
You can now binge all episodes of The Red Weather on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
On June 11th, 1998, a deputy from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department went missing.
It's an all-out manhunt for John Auger. Every search and rescue team in LA County has been called in to help.
Within days, tips started flooding into the Sheriff's Department.
The rumor around the drug scene was that a deputy was taken care of.
Is this the story of a man who just got lost in the desert? Or of a cover-up inside the nation's largest sheriff's department?
A homicide captain saying, "Detective, do not find out if this guy's guilty or innocent." Who does that?
Valley of Shadows, a new series from Pushkin Industries about crime and corruption in California's high desert.
Do you have any advice for us while looking into this disappearance?
I wouldn't do it alone.
Listen to Valley of Shadows on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
And we're back. So I want to get into the book jacket of this Mamma Jamma. Let's see what this is about. And you can tell right away on the inside, this was in 1995, $24. That is
kind of pricey.
Way too much money to spend on Newt Gingrich's 1945. Holy shit.
I feel like a $29.99 for that hardback today would be pushing it.
Yeah. This is like maybe like a $15 book. Man, that's a lot. So, introducing Lieutenant Commander James Martell. He's the right man in the right place at a very bad time. The year is 1945. In Europe, the Third Reich reigns triumphant. The Soviet Union is a fragment of its former self, and Britain has accepted a dictated armistice. In the Pacific, after a brief, sharp war with Japan, America is the only significant military presence. Now the world's two superpowers eye each other warily across an Atlantic Ocean that daily grows smaller. The big show is about to start. Who will win? The Americans with their formidable industrial base and superior logistical techniques, or the Germans with their science fiction super weapons that turn out not to be fictional after all? Only one thing is certain. If America is beaten, this alternative Reich will last 1,000 years. Join Speaker of the House Newt Gingrich and fellow historian William R. Forstchen in a world that, save for Adolf Hitler's inexplicable folly in prematurely declaring war on the United States in 1941, would have been.
Wait a second, just revisiting the timeline here. So he's not writing this in his spare time, like in his retirement or
no,
between?
he's Speaker of the House. This is a year after he like orchestrates a complete upending of U.S. electoral politics.
So shouldn't he be focusing on like the government?
No. I think we can all agree this was a better use of his time than doing his job.
Yeah.
I just find it very funny that he describes himself and his co-author as fellow historians, because as a spoiler, they are not. Neither of them are historians. Well, Forstchen is a little bit of a historian, but he's like a historian who went immediately into writing alternate histories. He is a professor of history at Montreat College in North Carolina. Montreat College is like a small, but that's not a real college. Yeah. Look, I'll give a partial to Forstchen, right? Because again, he spends most of his career, like his big job is writing a bunch of articles for Boys Life magazine, as well as young adult novels. And does that make you a real historian? I'm gonna put that on the cusp. But fucking Newt Gingrich certainly is not a real historian. Forstchen's main publisher was Baen, who back in the early to mid 1990s was a major purveyor of pulp sci-fi and alternate history books. That changed as a result of 1945, which due to Gingrich's star power was expected to be a major hit. You can tell that just by the look of this cover, right? Newt's name is massive. They're charging $24 fucking for this thing. And yeah, it's a catastrophe, Molly. It's one of the greatest disasters in fucking alt history publishing. Right. If you read online forums where alt history fans discuss this book, the rumors, credible ones, are that Newt promised Baen he was going to devote a lot of time using his platform. Newt is a famous PR hound, right? He's constantly talking to the Washington Post. He's willing to say like shitty stuff about himself to them, as we've kind of covered earlier, because his attitude is, I should always be in the Post, right? So Baen is like, well, old Newt, he knows how to get all the attention we need to move some real copies. Let's buy like 100,000 copies of this fucking book.
Sells 100,000 copies.
I know. It's so funny. And yeah, Newt fails to do the actual PR that he had promised to do. And as a result, 1945 is one of the biggest flops in publishing history. According to the Washington Post, for every 100 copies of this book that were sent out by Baen, 81 were returned unsold, leaving the publisher with almost 100,000 copies sitting around their warehouse. The scuttlebutt is that this was such a flop, it nearly killed Baen entirely. While I was doing my pre-search for this episode, I found a thread on a forum titled alternatehistory.com from 2007. Users speculated about why the sequel never came to pass. One user, BCO, wrote, 1945 practically bankrupted Baen Books. They assumed a prominent figure as Gingrich would lead to huge sales, printed up a lot of books, couldn't sell many of them. The idea of a sequel was out of the question. Another user, Amerigo Vespucci, replied with added context, to make matters worse, there was a falling out between Jim Baen and Forstchen over creative differences in the story. In part, Forstchen wrote the story as a single volume, but in order to better capitalize on the name on the cover, Baen split it into 2 volumes. There were other differences as well, and Baen never really discussed the matter in public. It left a bad taste in his mouth. Even with Baen's passing, I doubt we'll ever see the second volume. There'd be too many legal problems surrounding it. Your best bet might be to wait 20 years or so until Forstchen is dead too. He is still alive. Enter a law school to become a crackerjack lawyer and publicist, and then start negotiations to have the second volume released from his estate. I love the thought of a man who's that dedicated to a 1945 sequel that he orchestrates a 30-year plan to get that book.
Does Hitler die?
Hitler is still alive at the
That's
end
what I'm
of this
saying. So, like
book.
in the sequel, how does it end for Hitler?
I think the way this book is supposed to explain things with Hitler is that like he's in a horrible plane crash in 41, and so he gets all fucked up, and his people are able to like negotiate a peace with the USSR, and as a result, he kind of loses his mind. Like he's just like this damaged, broken figure of a man in the book.
But he was so mentally normal before.
He was doing so great before. Because this is an alt history thing, and because Newt is the kind of dude that he is, the main Nazi in this is a guy named Otto Skorzeny, who is, a lot of people, he was a real guy. He was one of the fathers of like modern special forces tactics. Like Skorzeny is a major figure in the development of like that kind of shit. I did find there's a fucking Orlando Sentinel book review that says that he died during an attack on Crete, which is not true. He lived until the 70s. He moved to Spain so that Franco would protect him, and he lived a fairly long life for a dude like him. But yeah, I wanted to start here with one of probably the most famous passage in this book, right? The opening scene, which features a high-powered DC politician who happens to be, if I'm not mistaken, the Speaker of the House.
So we got a self-insert. Yes.
Yeah, this is Newt's self-insert. And remember, 1995, this is right around when Newt Gingrich is attacking Clinton and saying that he should be impeached.
Does he describe his self-insert character as like very handsome?
He describes his self-insert character as having an affair while he, as the real Speaker of the House, was in this moment having an affair.
Okay, we have some honesty.
And specifically, the point of this chapter is his self-insert character hands over the secret to a Nazi spy, who is the person he's having an affair with, that the U.S. is working on creating an atomic weapon. Like, the inciting incident in this is his self-insert being compromised and giving up nuclear secrets in order to get laid.
And he is in the real world the Speaker of the House.
The Speaker of the House and having an affair with a staffer. That just
doesn't sound trustworthy to me.
It's amazing stuff. September 1st, 1945, Washington, D.C. Also, I don't know why they do this, but they spell prologue wrong.
That's not one of the ways to spell that.
At the end of this, I've only ever seen it spelled with an E at the end of it. I don't understand why they're doing it this way. But, darling, Germany and the United States are not at war. What harm is there if we share the occasional bit of gossip? Surely you don't think that I, a loyal Swede, the question trailed off in a lethal pout as his beautiful and so very exotic mistress stretched languidly, mock innocent appeal in her eyes. Still, he mustn't let her see just how much she moved him. A relationship had to have some balance. He stretched in turn, reached out for his cigarettes and gold-plated Ronson on the Art Deco nightstand with its Tiffany lamp. Since he wasn't sure what to say, he made a production out of lighting up and enjoying that first luxurious after-bout inhalation. What an unsexy way of talking about the aftermath of sex.
Just to say, Prolog No E is a declarative programming language designed for developing logic-based AI applications.
I think that, okay, so maybe this is what OpenAI used to create their AI. Is it all based on Newt Gingrich's 1945? That's
exactly what I was saying here. That's exactly what I was saying.
What a nightmare. Yeah. What a hideous, hideous nightmare. Mm-hmm. So he's having after-sex smokes with this lady who's very obviously a Nazi spy.
Yeah, she's not even being kind of sly about it. She's like, what if we just, if you really love me, you'd tell me national defense information.
Yeah. Now, here is Newt not at all talking about his actual marriage and actual infidelity. Playfully, to drive home the potential loss, she bit his shoulder, then kissed it better. Oh, hell, I don't want to. I wish I could just divorce Miss Little Goody Two-Shoes. I like this arrangement. She laughed softly. Mistress to the Chief of Staff of the President of the the Chief of Staff. So it's not exactly him, right? It's just basically him. Nice title, don't you think? Such a book I could write. Mayhew shuddered at the thought. Don't even joke about it. But he could trust her to be discreet. He was sure he could trust her. More to cover his moment of doubt than for any other reason, he harked back to her initial gambit. One thing we really don't have to worry about is a war between Germany and the United States. It just isn't in the cards. There's no way it could happen within the next year or so. And after that, well, take it from me, but nobody is going to dream of messing with the United States, not even Adolf Hitler. I don't think there's going to be a war either, but you seem so sure. What is your big secret? You were so excited about it when you came in here, and now you won't tell me. Suddenly, the pouting sex kitten gave way to Diana the Huntress. Tell me, she hissed. Mayhew looked at his delicious interrogator. For a moment, her intensity almost frightened him. Then he was overcome by it, by her. His had been a strict and starchy upbringing, and his marriage had not been born of love, but of political opportunity, though his wife didn't know that. So he capitulated. Besides, he wanted to tell, what good were secrets if you couldn't share? Okay, I surrender. Lucky for you, she purred, then laughed. Such games we have, she whispered in his ear. You play wonderfully. Now tell. Having given in, characteristically, he stalled. Sure you're not looking for a story for your Swedish newspaper? She just looked at him. He could tell she was tiring of the delay. And then he tells her that we're making a nuke.
So he must have missed the annual training that they give men in the government that, like, beautiful women do not want to talk politics with you with their tops off.
No.
Beautiful women aren't doing that.
Yeah. No, they never would. I think that's very funny. I think there's so much off-putting language in this book. Like thinking of Newt Gingrich writing the word sex kitten gives me like physical shivers up and down my spine, and it should do the same to you. But you know what doesn't make me shiver?
How cute my dog is in the background of this video.
Oh, Anderson is looking very good down there.
That gives me a little shiver.
But like a joy shiver, right?
Yeah, a joy shiver, sure, why not? The products and services that support our pod.
But do they support my dog?
No. They're neutral. They're cat people.
She left.
Uh-huh.
The second you said no, she left.
Yeah. Wow.
Stand your ground, Anderson.
Stand your ground.
Almost 30 years together, 4 kids, and some of reality TV's most unforgettable moments, we know a thing or two about living life out loud. We're taking you behind the scenes in our new podcast, Between Us, with me, Heather Dubrow.
And me, Terry Dubrow. Between Us isn't about perfect lighting or curated Instagram grids.
It's the unfiltered, behind-closed-doors conversations you wish you could eavesdrop on. Equal parts smart, funny, and a little bit scandalous.
Every week, Heather will bring you an unapologetic take on the headlines, the trends, and the cultural moments everyone's texting about.
And Terry will deliver insider beauty, health, and wellness insights you won't find on TikTok.
Together, we'll tell the stories, spill the secrets, and share the hacks that keep life, marriage, and everything in between feeling fresh and fun.
We may live in a gated community, but there's zero gatekeeping here.
And plenty of did they just say that moments?
Listen to Between Us on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Segregation in the day, integration at night.
When segregation was the law, one mysterious black club owner had his own rules.
We didn't worry about what went on outside. It was like stepping in another world.
Inside Charlie's place, black and white people danced together. But not everyone was happy about it.
You saw the KKK?
Yeah, they was dressed up in their uniform.
The KKK set out to raid Charlie, take him away from here.
Charlie was an example of power. They had to crush him.
From Atlas Obscura, Rococo Punch, and Visit Myrtle Beach comes Charlie's Place. A story that was nearly lost to time. Until now. Listen to Charlie's Place on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
You know Roald Dahl, the writer who thought up Willy Wonka, Matilda, and the BFG. But did you know he was also a spy?
Was this before he wrote his stories? It must have been.
Our new podcast series, The Secret World of Roald Dahl, is a wild journey through the hidden chapters of his extraordinary, controversial life.
His job was literally to seduce the wives of powerful Americans.
What?
And he was really good at it.
You probably won't believe it either.
Okay, I don't think that's true.
I'm telling you, the guy was a spy.
Did you know Dahl got cozy with the Roosevelts, played poker with Harry Truman, and had a long affair with a congresswoman? And then he took his talents to Hollywood, where he worked alongside Walt Disney and Alfred Hitchcock before writing a hit James Bond film. How did this secret agent wind up as the most successful children's author ever? And what darkness from his covert past seeped into the stories we read as kids? The true story is stranger than anything he ever wrote. Listen to The Secret World of Roald Dahl on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is Ryder Strong with a podcast called The Red Weather.
In 1995, my neighbor, Anna Trainer, disappeared from a commune.
It was nature and trees and praying and drugs.
So no, I am not your guru.
And back then, I lied to everybody.
They have had this case for 30 years.
I'm going back to my hometown to uncover the truth.
You can now binge all episodes of The Red Weather on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
On June 11th, 1998, a deputy from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department went missing.
It's an all-out manhunt for John Ajay. Every search and rescue team in LA County has been called in to help.
Within days, tips started flooding into the sheriff's department.
They rumor around the drug scene was that a deputy was taken care of.
Is this the story of a man who just got lost in the desert, or of a cover-up inside the nation's largest sheriff's department?
A homicide captain saying, "Detective, do not find out if this guy's guilty or innocent." Who does that?
Valley of Shadows, a new series from Pushkin Industries about crime and corruption in California's high desert.
Do you have any advice for us while looking into this disappearance?
I wouldn't do it alone.
Listen to Valley of Shadows on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
And we're back.
You can really tell this is election day.
We're half-assing our 1945 episode. So
I can't wait to find out what happens when she doesn't do anything with that secret.
Yeah, well, she does, and Hitler invades East Tennessee.
Which is funny because there is a guy who does love Hitler who has a compound in East Tennessee.
There's a lot, Molly, there's more than one guy who loves Hitler and has a compound in East Tennessee.
God.
So there's a Gizmodo article I found called "Newt Gingrich Should Go Back to Writing Science Fiction."
Yes, he should.
Kind of urging him to finish this book. It has some interesting stuff to say about this piece of fiction. In any case, whether 1945 is as historically dodgy as many have claimed, it contains several vital elements of total awesomeness. For one thing, the triumphant Nazi Germany spends its time developing what the back cover describes as science fiction superweapons. You think I'm kidding? How about rockets that are remotely guided via television cameras, or superjets with drop tanks to provide ground support, plus super rockets and hydrogen-powered submarines? Plus, every villain
in front of a real thing.
You got to stick super in front of it, otherwise people won't know that it's better than the normal kind of thing. Every villain in this book is hideous and crazy. At some point, Skorzeny gets injured and loses an eye, so he can get an eye patch or maybe some kind of cyborg eye. In this passage, our hero, the square-jawed Jim Martell, tries to shoot down Skorzeny's plane and fails. Now, ammunition gone, he could only watch as the second and then the third plane lifted off. Unlike the second plane, the third stayed low as the pilot pushed it in just enough left rudder to cause the plane to crab onto the edge of the grass strip so that it passed by not 20 feet away from where Jim stood. Otto Skorzeny looked down, grinning demonically, and James Martell finally understood the meaning of hatred. There's apparently like 3 or 4 times where a character learns the meaning of hatred, and that's because Newt Gingrich, as an educator, likes it when people expand their minds. For a little bit more coverage of some of the awkward lines in this book, I'm going to turn to an Orlando Sentinel piece titled, "As a Writer, Gingrich Makes a Good Politician." Good title for a book review. 1945 is cluttered with awkward lines like, "The exhaust vapors that swirled in through the car's open windows stank like hell itself." Then there's this. The scene brought to Martell's mind the absurd image of a cobra tenderly protecting a baby. Much of the
What's bringing that to mind?
Why would that bring that to mind? Have you ever seen that? Is that a thing you can picture because you've witnessed it?
You know what this reminds me of?
Yeah, you know what this reminds me of? A thing no one's ever seen. It's very funny. Much of the pre-publication hoopla surrounding 1945 involved its supposedly steamy sex scenes, some of which were excerpted last year in the New York Times Magazine when the book was still in draft form. Gingrich vowed to tone down the sex. He succeeded. For example, in bed with his... we just read that passage, but I love that there were leaks of this that were too horny, and he had to change the final draft. There's also a lot of...
Who was leaking these?
It's got to be Newt, right?
Himself.
Who else would leak these, right?
He's just testing the water. How horny can we get?
A good amount of George H.W. Bush slander in this. Gingrich talks about, has a character who knew him when he was a pilot, because George H.W. Bush fought in World War II, who says, if you needed someone to lead a group straight into enemy flak, he was your man, which is funny because he was, in fact, shot down during the war, and he had to also edit those portions to be nicer to George H.W. Bush, which is cowardly, Newt. You've blown up any sort of legitimacy your book had when you do stuff like that. Anyway, I want to move to a passage midway through the book that's set in Winston Churchill's office, because one of the things that happens while the Germans invade East Tennessee, Rommel conducts a landing in Scotland.
Of course.
They're moving down through Scotland.
The Desert Fox is going to the
Desert
moors.
Fox. No one better to conduct a war on the Scottish moors than the Desert Fox. Just port the Africa Corps right on over. They'll appreciate the breeze. So I want to talk about this just because there's a little bit here that's kind of relevant to modern politics. Here's Winston Churchill talking. And one of his aides
Molly
says...
and I both made the same face, but we're like, oh no.
Uh-huh. He's talking to one of his aides, a guy named Andrew. For my part, I've ordered a secret alert for the Royal Air Force starting at midnight. Also, the Army will move on spring maneuver schedule up so as to increase troop strengths throughout England. I'm also going to make a speech before the House next week, accusing Hitler of preparing to launch an attack against us. Winston, I wish you wouldn't do that. Why? Because the America First crowd will go to town on you, that's why. They'd claim it was part of an ongoing plot to drag us into yet another European conflict. They'll say it was a repeat of what you and Roosevelt tried to do in 40 and 41. They'll say you're deliberately trying to provoke Hitler, that you came back to office intending to do just that, to finally drag us into a showdown with Germany. If you make that speech, I won't be able to back you up. A cold, static-laden silence was the only response. Even Roosevelt didn't start to move openly until after the 40 elections, you know, Andrew continued after a moment's pause. You know that I agreed with him 100%. I could see the threat as far back as the denouement of Versailles and the move into the Rhineland. I knew then, and I know now, that the maniac son of a bitch would never stop on his own, and that nothing short of a full-scale war with the United States could stop him. We should have been in it back in 41. If it hadn't been for that damned accident, he'd have declared war on us after Pearl Harbor. He all but told me that himself. In 41, we'd have won easily. Now he's 10 times more dangerous. I just love that the America First guys are the bad guy in 1995, and fucking Gingrich is absolutely going to wind up on that side here. Yeah. Now, there's a couple other fun moments in another chapter. Not long after this, we go to Rommel talking with some of his people, and there's a line here that's very funny. Americans would be startled to discover the degree of camaraderie that existed not just between different ranks within the German officer corps, but between officers and rankers, though the practice had its roots in the mutinous conditions prevalent in the German military at the end of the Great War. Perhaps Germans could afford the informality because German society was so thoroughly status conscious, whereas Americans, so unready to grant superiority to anybody, needed the outward manifestations of rank because otherwise they would lose track of who issued orders and who took them. It's an interesting description of American culture.
Oh, Newt.
And a strange read of Germans. I don't know that there was informality in the ranks.
Yeah, informality in the German military. I think he's trying to talk about like Auftragstaktik, which was this kind of it was this kind of flattening of military hierarchies in certain specific ways that came about as a result of like combat in World War I, where you were saying basically like unit leading officers should have a lot of freedom to like conduct advances and kind of carry out attacks in a way that sort of they see fit rather than having to follow orders to the letter from above, right? I
just don't know that translated into sort of the social culture of German people.
I don't know that I would say the German military was particularly informal between officers and civilians, especially since like the Prussian Junker officer class was still a major part of the German military in this period.
So what happens when they get to Tennessee? Is it like a ground invasion?
I think they come in from the air, right?
Of course, yeah.
And then, I can tell you what happens, which is that Sergeant Alvin York and a bunch of elderly veterans form a militia and stop the Nazis.
Oh, wow.
Largely, that's who saves the day. Because Newt's got to have his like pro-Second Amendment stuff, so he like puts it in the mouth of like an elderly Sergeant York fighting off the Waffen SS.
The old men of Appalachia just like
the
band
old men
together.
Of Appalachia. Look,
okay, I can buy that. Honestly.
I can buy that. I mean, the Waffen SS. The Waffen SS proved in the actual World War II that they were not very good at fighting an insurgency. And I think that Appalachia is worse terrain to fight an insurgency than anywhere in Western Russia. So I'm going to say, yeah, probably. Probably that would have gone bad for the Nazis.
See, this could conceivably have been an interesting alternate history. The Waffen-SS trying to fight their way town to town through Appalachia and just getting their shit wrecked.
Well, the problem with this book, because that's a book I would read, especially if someone
I would like that.
Someone less problematic like Harry Turtledove had written the fucker. But that's not Newt and Forstchen kind of fall for a standard pitfall in writing fiction here, writing particularly speculative past fiction, is you have this point that's the actual thing that you want to get that's actually interesting, which is an insurgent war in Appalachia between the Nazis and elderly American World War I veterans. That's a fun premise, but you don't get to it until the very end of the book, right? By the end of the book, Hitler's, geared up for a full scale invasion, and we're actually getting ready to have he's set up a naval conflict between U.S. carrier groups and Nazi the German Navy. There's a lot of cool stuff that's happening by the end potentially, but it's not really a part of the story because he feels the need to go back much further. You should always start a book at the thing that's most interesting to you, right? You don't actually want to waste a lot of time building up to that, even if you're well, people are going to want to know how we got here. No, they're not. They don't give a shit. Start at whatever's most interesting. It's a rookie mistake. Maybe if Newt hadn't been so busy being the Speaker of the House, he'd have been able to get it right.
So what you're saying is the sequel is probably a banger, and we need to get it. I think
the sequel is a banger. It was all apparently intended to be one book that's too long. But yeah, I don't know. We probably don't need to go through this whole thing, especially because it's the election. And
I do like that he named his protagonist Jim Martell, right? That's Jim very Martell. Charles Martell.
Yeah, it's a fine name.
Was it Charlemagne's dad?
Yeah. Also played by Christopher, what's his name? From The Lord of the Rings. I don't know. I think I'm good on this book. We hit 45 minutes, right? That's all we owe you on our off week. This is an off week. We're taking a breather. We're trying not to focus too much on the news because nothing interesting is going to happen yet. You in the future know, so just scream at past Robert and Molly about what happened.
And if I don't get any message from the future, I will assume that we all die this week. So please do send a message.
This is it for the whole world. Thank God. Thank goodness. Anyway, Molly, how do you feel about the alternate past? What's your favorite World War II counterfactual? Do you spend much time thinking about, for example, what if the Germans hadn't invaded Russia but had focused all of their military might on North Africa,
As a woman, Robert, I'm going to say no. I have never thought about that in my life.
That's a shame. I spent a lot of time doing World War II counterfactuals.
No, I could get my partner. I think he probably could talk about this for hours. I think this is a thing that men like to think about. But no, I have never considered this.
So are you more of a World War I counterfactual guy? What if Serbia had taken over the Austro-Hungarian Empire? What if by World War II the great land power in Europe was the Serbian Empire?
What if
I'm always asking myself like that. Sophie, aren't you always asking about that?
I'll tell you
Not
one
once.
thing. We never would have stopped putting cigarettes in movies, right? If Serbia is a China-sized market for American television and film, cigarettes don't ever get cut out of Hollywood, So that's good. That's my prediction. Anyway,
Molly, do you have anything you want to plug?
Yeah, you should listen to my podcast, Weird Little Guys. Assuming no acts of terrorism happened this week, I won't have any new news to cover in there. But each week
there have already been 5 bomb threats against polling locations in Georgia.
Oh, they did pick up a guy the other day with an armed bomb about to blow up the power grid in Nashville. So it does keep happening. I'll never run out of guys.
I'm not going to say there will be no acts of terrorism.
Yeah, well, you can tune into Weird Little Guys to hear about these kind of weird little guys who do things like that.
Yeah. Speaking of weird little guys, Newt Gingrich, probably a lot littler because he's extremely old now. So he's weird.
Check out Newt's wife's Instagram. She photoshops her face to be completely smooth in every picture. It's incredible.
Beautiful. And presumably, if this book is true, she's plying him for nuclear secrets.
She used to be the ambassador to the Vatican. She's not anymore, I reckon.
What a do-nothing job.
I know.
Make me ambassador to the Vatican. Because you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get into those catacombs. I'm going to steal some saints' bones, I'm going to have a whole necklace made out of the bones of saints.
Dream bigger. I'm getting the chronovisor.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the Pope's time machine.
Yeah, of course.
Anyways, hopefully
the Pope has a time machine.
Hopefully things aren't.
I love the idea that the Pope has a time machine, because my imagination is, rather than doing like anything that would help the Catholic Church, he just repeatedly goes back in time to like put a thumbnail on Martin Luther's chair. Like he's just constantly fucking with Martin Luther a little bit.
I don't think the chronovisor allows you to manipulate the past, only to view it.
Well, then I would go look at dinosaurs.
Obviously, Robert.
That's the only thing I would be interested. I'm proud to say I wouldn't stop any historical crimes with a time machine. I'm doing nothing but dinosaur related stuff if I get access to a time machine. Yeah. Anyway,
that's what I'm doing.
Go have sex with Newt Gingrich and get secrets from him.
I don't think he apparently has any secrets anymore.
Jesus Christ.
Well, I hope there's only one way to learn.
I hope future everybody is okay.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Okay. And, wear a rubber. You don't know where Newt's been.
Jesus
Christ. Newt doesn't know where Newt's been at this point.
Behind the Bastards is a production of Cool Zone Media. For more from Cool Zone Media, visit our website, coolzonemedia.com, or check us out on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Behind the Bastards is now available on YouTube. New episodes every Wednesday and Friday. Subscribe to our channel, youtube.com/@BehindTheBastards.
I actually drop better when I'm high. It heightens my senses, calms me down. If anything, I'm more careful. Honestly, it just helps me focus.
That's probably what the driver who killed a 4-year-old told himself. And now he's in prison. You see, no matter what you tell yourself, if you feel different, you drive different. So if you're high, just don't drive. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Then she says, have you seen a photo of my son? And I'm like, who is this person?
Welcome to the Boys and Girls Podcast. Arranged marriage is basically a reality show, and you're auditioning for your soulmate. And who's judging? Only your entire family. I sacrificed myself to this ancient tradition, hoping to find love the right way. And instead, I found chaos, comedy, and a lot of cringe. Listen to Boys and Girls on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey everyone, it's Emily Simpson and Shane Simpson from the Legally Brunette podcast.
Each week, we're bringing you true crime through a legal lens.
Whether you want all the facts on the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, or you still need to wrap your head around the Diddy verdict, we're breaking it all down step by step.
And we're not just lawyers, we're also husband and wife. It makes for some pretty entertaining episodes.
Listen to Legally Brunette on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
When segregation was a law, one mysterious black club owner, Charlie Fitzgerald, had his own rules.
Segregation in the day, integration at night.
It was like stepping in another world.
Was he a businessman, a criminal, a hero?
Charlie was an example of power. They had to crush him.
Charlie's Place, from Atlas Obscura and Visit Myrtle Beach. Listen to Charlie's Place on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm Heather Dubrow.
And I'm Terry Dubrow.
And we're going to keep this between us.
Not really. The TMZ guy walks up to me and goes, Terry, what do you think about Bradley Cooper? They asked him and they said he's not had any plastic surgery.
But I mean, what's the latest rumor? I'm gay, right? Isn't that the latest rumor?
Yes.
First of all, if I were gay, I would be gay.
Listen to Between Us on America's #1 podcast network, iHeart. Follow Between Us and start listening on the free iHeartRadio app today.
This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed Human.